Hi, everybody. Welcome again to the Long Distance Work Life, the show that helps people thrive, survive, just figure out this crazy world of remote and hybrid work. Uh, we are Marissaless today, but that means that I have another terrific guest, and I'm going to bring him in now. Terry Isner is what's the word I'm looking for? All around head honcho of Jaffe PR, and they have been working remotely long before any of the other cool kids were doing it. So, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. And I love that intro. I love the idea that we're setting the bar for the cool kids. Thank you.
Whatever table you're at is the cool kids table if you just embrace the denial.
I like that. I'm going to go with that for the rest of my life now. I wish I would have known
So,
that earlier.
Terry, we've spent a lot of time on this show talking to experts, he says, making funny air quotes, and looking at it from the individual worker's point of view, making it work. But I think we owe it to the people who run companies and to talk about how remote works and how you actually get stuff done. So, with your permission, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the early days of your agency, how you decided not to have, the big headquarters with the office and the sign, and what the challenges were back then. And then we'll bring it forward to today.
Sure. Jaffe is an agency that was formed 47 years ago inside of a law firm. So we cater, our marketing and PR is all catered to law firms in the legal community. And so basically 47 years ago, law firms were allowed to begin marketing. Supreme Court, opened up a ruling that they can begin marketing themselves. And Jaffe was formed by a gentleman named Jay Jaffe. And so it was in-house at a law firm. And as it evolved, we became virtual probably 35 years ago, so maybe 10 years into him starting the company. But virtual to us was we worked at our homes, but we all met together because we were still in the same region around somebody's dining room table once a week or something like that. So we still had the sense of bricks and mortar that pulled us together, but we were beginning the idea of working remotely. And I was an employee then, and I had left working inside of a law firm and trusting this idea of what this might be working at home, and the challenges alone of raising 3 kids and kind of taking that quick scary step into the idea of at home or remote working.
Now, 37 years ago, I mean, let's do the math. That was pre a lot of stuff.
There's no communicating in Teams. There's no Zooms. There's none of this that we can do. I'm not even sure if I think back what we had. Phone, probably flip phone, probably text capability. So that's why, as you think about the idea of this concept of a remote working and how Jay and Jaffe started to form, and the idea that you still work at home, I'm not going to have a bricks and mortar for us to come in every day. We're going to remove that cost and everything related to that. But we're still going to get together because we were, again, regionally located. But then we started to see that this works, and technology started to come along with us. And we started to realize we don't want to go back to bricks and mortar. We don't need the office environment, which I think is an important thing for us all to think about, is not everybody can thrive and fit into this format or into this environment. But those of us that were already working this way, it was working really well. So we just kept adapting more technology and growing away from each other further and further to the point where you could move wherever you wanted. And we realized we were still operating just like we were around that dining room table.
So there's two things that you said there that I really want to make sure we stick a pin in. One is that you were hybrid before anybody knew what hybrid was, right? That you were making it work 30 years ago. The excuses for not making it work now are pretty shaky.
Yeah.
The other thing that you said And I have maintained this for a very long time. People who have listened to this show are tired of hearing me say the game is done, we'll have the world will never have WebEx. That it can be done, but it starts with the intentionality. I think
Right.
it's almost easier if you start with the intention rather than, okay, we've got a job, now we have to figure out how to do it when people aren't here.
Yep. Yeah. So it's funny. You think about, we've done this right now for many years. So for us, virtual just started to evolve very comfortably because technology evolved with us. We already knew this could work. There was no doubt. We're also very committed because this is the way we want to work. Going back to the idea that this doesn't fit all. Then you jump now to COVID. Okay, boom. Now we're into a world many, 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 many years later where the world stops and everybody has to go home and nobody can go anywhere, but work has to continue. And from the law firm perspective, they live under the mentality of bricks and mortar, and you come to the office and there's hierarchy and this is how things work. So this was very unnerving to them. So then we found ourselves, as we watched the world, bake sourdough bread and do their TikToks and all the other things that they did, we thought, this is just another day in the life for us. I mean, we're just working. There's no shutting down. And so we really found ourselves in a valuable position because we could now start to help our clients understand the positives, the negatives, the technology-based concerns, the disciplines, all of those things that are needed, and leadership's ability to herd all those cats and manage all those things and still be profitable.
What
And I
was the
think that
biggest
was an
thing?
eye-opener.
What was the biggest thing that you kind of took as normal and freaked other people out?
I think the biggest thing was the sense that nothing was going to stop. I think the bigger part was the fact that everybody was in the same place. So therefore, you could very quickly lead the charge or adapt to the change, and you wouldn't feel like you were behind or you were kind of um, uh, ignorant to the process itself. I think
Well, the
what blew
Buddha will
our
tell you the secret to happiness is low expectations.
well, yes, yes, but they didn't have low expectations. They had panic expectations. They weren't even low or high. They were pure panic expectations. And I think what was the real eye opener and the real moment for us when we watched and realized you actually operated like this already. It was the thought process that you didn't have the option. You didn't have the tether, the security that you had going into that office. And that security is really interesting because it's twofold. It's those leading and needing and expecting people to be there because that's the accountability I can hold you to. I see you there 9 hours. I see you there 10 hours a day. I can go to your office. I can interrupt. I can be a part of that process and I see you. So there's accountability. The other side of that accountability is the worker who now also wants to be seen, wants you to know that they're sitting in their office, wants to make sure that you see them walk in the office at 7:30, not at 9. And so there's a double level of panic going. I'm sitting at home now and I can't show my bosses, which I'm used to, that I'm here and they can count on me. And then I don't have the ability now to hold my people accountable for being attentive and part of the process 8, 9, 10 hours a day, like you are at the office. So the crazy part was watching the fact that you're actually going to work more. You're going to have more time to work. You're going to have more innovation, flexibility, all these other things because you're in your own natural environment. And to watch that process happen was really quite amazing because they were already collaborating and doing things through email, doing things through other forms of electronic communications, maybe not nearly as much as we see in Teams and we see in Zooms and everything else. But you kind of watch the aha moment. And at the end of that year, when we went back to the client and we said, "How was your year?" "Really good. We really had a great year." So profit wise, once the Band-Aid was ripped off and once there was that aha moment that we kind of have this, we already are doing this, we were held back by technology, held back by rules, held back by the idea of a test. excuse me, that tether. And once the Band-Aid was ripped off, we watched it happen. And within 45 days or so, you were back to working really pretty naturally with our clients. Um, so that was kind of our moment when we went, we've done this for so long. Wow, watch them see it. Watch the eyes start to sparkle. Watch them see how they can change things. Then we saw law firms selling their floors of office space and reducing the idea of bricks and mortar and realizing that there was a greater opportunity for profit by reducing this mindset of growth in one area as opposed to opening up a greater net and having growth even greater.
Okay, so let's get down to some of the trickier things, because you've managed this way for a long time. And I remember talking to a client when they went back to the office after COVID, and I remember her saying, "Oh, good, we can go back to managing people now. I've been so empathetic, it makes my head hurt, and now I need to manage people again."
So
I told you that story when we had our pre-chat about this, and you kind of gave the little smirk that you gave now. But realistically, for managers, what works well for you in terms of managing people? I mean, you've had to hire, you've had to fire.
yeah, it's funny the way that you put that though, and the smirk comes to the idea that, again, coming out of this opportunity to work remotely and the challenges and questions in relationship to that, for me to be able to do it or for me to be able to lead, those, two big questions. And you talk about, my head hurts because I've just been so empathetic during this whole process. Uh, But from a leader perspective, I think the biggest thing to come out of COVID was empathy and the idea that we as human beings should use that one thing that sets us apart from all other living creatures is the fact that we can have empathy. So the idea that it's like, oh, I can go back to the office and I can reduce the amount of empathy I show kind of always makes me laugh, because I think that was a big thing we learned. And you have to have, I think that one of the one ways I would lead people to think about leading in a virtual world is to watch Ted Lasso. And the reason why is because there's so many things that come out of that we have to apply. Trust, because you don't have the accountability every single day. You don't have that person coming into the office. So you might have a team situation that has a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. And a green light tells me you're sitting at your desk, and a yellow light tells me that you're away from your desk, and a red light says I'm not available or don't bother me. So we learn those, but all those technologies can be beat and set up in all other ways. So we now have to trust much more than we ever had to before, because we don't have our eyes, we don't have all these other things telling us that the accountabilities that we've set in place are all being, hit. So trust, curiosities, learning more. It opened the idea for us to learn more about our people. Look, you're seeing into my office space. You're commenting about prints I have on the wall. Imagine how COVID and being in a remote situation equalizes all of us. There's no corner office. Either you're working in a bedroom, you're working in the kitchen, or you got an organized office. This is the way we've seen on everybody's Zooms. So the idea about being curious now, we're entering into people's lives. The lines are being blurred. So there's so much, I think, that, just coming from a list of things that I've learned from watching Ted Lasso that I've had to apply, because those other measurable things that we have, especially in a bricks and mortar working environment, are gone. So now you have to start to put other ones in place. Like I said, the accountability, are you available? Okay, well, it's not saying that you're available. We work remotely. The idea is a work-life balance. So that comes back to those disciplines. So when I come to the idea of hiring, which is a huge challenge, and I think we talked about this last time we talked, if I'm hiring somebody from in-house, they are coming from a comfortable place that they can trust a salary, they can trust the number of days off that they have, the sick leave, whatever that might be. They are very comfortable fitting in a set of parameters that they every day can wake up and know that those are in place. In a remote situation, and most likely, and in our situation, we have a different foundation of the way that we pay and organized structure. So if you're in a commission base now and you're not in a salary based, and you're responsible for the billable hour that you have to bill to feed your family, and you're kind of responsible for bringing in some of that billable hour, that skin in the game, what we find is those that come with the crutches from being in-house usually don't succeed because they don't have those parameters in place, those accountabilities we talked about. And so unfortunately, then we end up losing people. So when you do that from a virtual base, that's really hard because there's a lot of technology that has to be purchased and put in place, a lot of subscriptions that you're added to, technology itself, upgrading, all of those things. And then you find that somebody is unproductive within that 6 month period or whatever. And you kind of know that because you're watching billable hour. You're watching billable hour actually either be entered incorrectly because I'm hungry and I'm scared and I don't know what to do. So now I'm overbilling, or I'm underbilling because I'm not sure what to do and how to work in this environment because you don't have somebody coming in and knocking on the door. These are big challenges that we've had to, deal with in growth. And the growth has been great for us, but that push and pull has been really hard.
I'll bet it has. I mean, I know the transition, and especially for people persons, right?
Yes.
Which I am getting the very subtle sense that you are. Uh, it can be tricky communicating through technology. My favorite horror story is that my wife was once fired by Yahoo Messenger.
Yes. This is real, right? Real. This is the way people have used the crutch that way. And think about the fear email created alone. I think that's a really good thing that you brought up. We have to think of the whys that the barriers go up from remote working and really from a leadership level of not continuing to look forward with the hope that I can go back to the office so I don't have to be so empathetic, right? The idea that I can go back to the way it was. So if we think about that and the idea of it, moving forward, and I completely lost what you just asked me or you just said when I was leading up to
Well, we were
that.
talking about technology, and you had said that email
Oh,
is
that's
a
right.
good
Sorry.
example.
So you think
See,
about
look at me listening
no,
and paying
good
attention.
job. You think about those barriers that are preventing us from moving forward. I think at a faster rate to remote working and seeing the value of that. Comes back to early problems that we experienced as we started to evolve into a more tech communication and relationship building process, i.e., tone in emails, right? And that fear alone, I think, or again, disciplines, lack of responsiveness, all of those things that we started now to see a different way that people communicated or people lacked in their communication, or the idea of the email that seemed to have tone in it, right? Or the all caps email that somebody gets. Those were negatives to the idea of moving remotely because that's how we have to operate. You're going to operate through a written instant, in real life discussion in Teams. You're going to continue to operate through email, and you're going to also operate through text. So that written word relationship and those tools, I think early on set that kind of stage of, oh my God, I'm really afraid of this because of the other things we saw. So we instantly were against the idea of all the other forms of technology growth, jump to this and Zoom. You had no choice. The Band-Aid was ripped off and you had absolutely no choice. But for so long, there was a choice to take the idea of remote. And I think it's those things like email early on that started to damage, or hitting all when you didn't want to hit all. And I think fears like that really started to creep in of how will we operate with a little bit more of this unknown and assumptions that we might make in the written world, because we're projecting into those words ourselves. And I think that caused some fear. And I don't think people evolved as quickly as they should have, especially in the older generations, right? The younger generations were already operating fully this way and still are, and communicating in all different ways in which we still need to get to. But I think it was some of the early on technology that put a little bit of barriers up and concerns up.
Terry, thank you so much. We are at the end of our time. What I'm taking away, part of what you mentioned, and I don't know if this was your intent, but my brain, my historical geek brain, just goes back to, Cortez burned the boats. The fact that we were clinging to this idea of going back to the office in many cases stopped people from making a full commitment to making remote and hybrid work.
Yep.
Whereas if the boats are burned,
Look, it's fear and nothing more than fear. It's fear on both sides. So my advice, if you're going to go into the remote world, one is trust the process, understand and look at all of the forms in which we have, the channels we have to communicate, find which is best and which works best for your company. Believe in your people, believe in that process, let go of everything we learned from the Industrial Revolution for sure, and understand we're in the humanity revolution, and you will have you will get burned and you will find great people that will evolve with you. You'll be curious. You'll find somebody who's an asset to your company, and you'll see profits grow because you won't have costs in other places. That's my final advice.
fabulous. The humanity revolution, nothing else. We may have found the title for this episode. Thank you so much, man. If you're interested in contacting Terry and learning more about Jaffe and TR, we will have the show note links and all of that good stuff at longdistanceworklife.com. If you are interested in figuring out how to do what Terry's talked about, may I humbly suggest our book, The Long Distance Team. You can find more at longdistanceteambook.com. This is a podcast, long drill, and subscribe. All stuff that the kids say to get to this current podcast. And Marissa will be back next week. We are easy. You can reach us on LinkedIn, by email. If you have suggestions for future shows, questions, pet peeves, we're doing another pet peeve episode in a couple of weeks. We look forward to hearing from you. Terry, thanks so much for being with us. My name is Wayne Sherman. Don't let the weasel sit down, and we'll see you on the next episode.